Is racism the leading cause of death in the United States? This is the question posed to us by the British Medical Journal.
One critical race theorist says yes.
So I'll be talking about both this article and looking at some of the ridiculous ways in which race grifters are using racism to just claim that everything is racist. So,
I love here that they list their Twitter @s as well. That for me, that's perfect. It's like, yeah, this is where we get our ideology from. Twitter.
It's such an academic faux pas
Yeah,
as well.
exactly.
Just tagging your Twitter, like follow me on
Follow
Twitter.
me on Twitter. Oh, you losers. Yeah.
I mean, if it's making it very easy to say this is just academia for clout, but there we go.
Yeah.
So after I've gone through this article, I'll be citing some examples of things that have recently become racist. So I can suppose I can present this as this week in race grifting. So in the US, computers are racist. Joe Rogan is racist. Highways are racist. The NFL and pollution are all racist. In the UK, court wigs.
What?
Being prosecuted
Court
for animal
wigs?
abuse. Cider's racist. And a mural is racist.
Well, I mean, the mural might be like a Nazi symbol.
It's not. It's a mural in the Tate Modern.
Oh, right.
Which is of a landscape.
What? Oh, God. Okay.
We'll get onto that, don't worry.
Okay.
So, talk about this ridiculous article. So it starts off saying, during the past year, the dual crises of COVID-19 pandemic and police violence have opened many people's eyes to the ways in which political constructs of race, and anti-black racism in particular, continue to determine who lives and who dies in the United States. This is some quality medical work going on here in this article.
This is clownish.
I know. Just like, yes, we are interested in medicine, but let me talk to you about police violence for some reason. Okay.
I mean, police violence is not a leading cause of death in the United States. Just okay.
The police are just going around and giving everyone heart disease and cancer, aren't they? That's what's going on.
Well, I mean, I think there's something like 5,000 people shot a year in the United States.
Which is nothing compared to...
They got 350 million. So
I'm pretty sure the burgers you're eating are 100 times worse than the police
heart
for
disease,
killing
sugar,
you.
exactly. Anyway.
So it goes on. Within medicine, physicians and other healthcare professionals are reckoning with the ways in which research has falsely looked at race as a biological attribute rather than a social construct over centuries, contributing to systems of racism in healthcare delivery. At long last, medical science is declaring that race is not biological, but that racism has profound consequences for health.
Oh, but we know that there are different biological problems that different races of people get.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we know that that's true. Like sickle cell anemia, and like bowel cancer for whites and things like this.
Mm-hmm. And I think what they're trying to reach at is that within certain genetic groups that we'd recognise as races, there's more differences within than between, meaning that they're bad groups. But it's basically, we use race as a placeholder for just genetic groups,
clusters.
really.
Yeah, exactly. It's a fuzzy sort of groups of genetic clusters.
Mm-hmm.
And this just to, like, again, I don't think there's any moral component to your race. Like, it's neither good nor bad. It just is. And so it's the is-ought distinction here. Just because something is doesn't mean you ought to do something about it. Mm-hmm. But we actually know that, like John is Asian, and we know that he's got different shaped orbital sockets to us. It's just the way it is. It's just like, who cares? It does, it doesn't matter. But that's a fact. It's just like to say that. And the thing is as well. Oh, race is not biological. Okay, then, smart guy. How is it you decided on the name of the race? Oh, it was black. Because there's no biological component. So they don't have a particular color skin. So black people can have any color skin.
It's just an arbitrary naming, isn't it?
Exactly. It was just plucked out of the air. Or is it to do with the biological component that makes their skin a certain color? You just to say, and how did white people come about? Oh, well, because they've got light skin. Oh, how? What a coincidence. It happened to map to this biological characteristic, but it wasn't biological. Okay.
It gets worse, don't you worry. The risk of these, so it's talking about some diseases that are particularly prevalent, and it says the risk of these diseases and others are mediated by a complex web of social determinants, which are acquired rather than innate. And I mean, it's not like you can have an innate tendency to say, certain diseases. That never happens. I mean, that's never talked about in medicine whatsoever. That
No.
you know, heritability of diseases. That it's
It
like
is-
one of the main ways of telling that you might get a certain
The first
condition.
thing your doctor asks you is what diseases, what illnesses do your parents and grandparents suffer from? Because
Exactly,
you're
yeah.
likely to suffer from them.
And also,
Is there any
you get
history of
diseases
this
from-
in your family? Like, that's the first question.
Yes, and also just the idea that these things are socially determined. Like you get ill, it's because society made you ill. It's not because of germs in your system. It's society.
It's not the food you ate or your genetic disposition. Society made you this way.
One of the most influential social determinants. I'm going to start that again. One of the most influential social determinants is systematic racism.
Bravo.
Black people in the United States
You got
are
it.
more likely to die young. Therefore racism.
Yeah, I bet that's nothing to do with,
Lifestyle
murder
choices
rates.
and
Yeah.
murder rates, yes.
like Chicago life expectancy for young black men is probably very low.
Not because there is some intrinsic biological risk, but because of racism.
Yeah, it's racism.
There's also
it's
the-
not even the biological risk. It's because they just left free to be parts of gangs.
There is also an element of biological risk in that, generally
Well,
speaking,
young
they are
men, I
larger in
suppose.
frame and therefore their heart has to work harder.
Sure.
So they're more susceptible to certain heart diseases by definition, just by your body mass
right.
is
okay.
correlated
So
with
like,
that.
yeah, like
So it's
men generally.
objectively
Yeah.
wrong as
Yeah.
well. The difference in life expectancy and mortality rates reflects the relationship between racism and health outcomes, which is complex and follows many potential pathways. This reality, apparently, derives from the historical and present manifestations of racial politics in the United States.
Okay, hang on.
Okay.
So how does this happen in Africa? Like, if you've got countries controlled entirely by black people for generations, how are they getting bad health outcomes?
It's just that they're so racist that they're
They're
killing each other.
Internalized white supremacy. Got it.
Such as laws and policies that curtail individual freedoms, obstruct access to economic opportunities, and limit social mobility. For many racial and ethnic minority groups, and particularly for the descendants of enslaved Africans, equality in health and longevity remain beyond reach.
Okay, right. Well, can we have health equality with the Mediterraneans, please?
Yes, because they live longer than us, don't they?
Yes, way longer than us.
Mm-hmm.
Health inequality.
So those Mediterraneans, they're just
Systematic
oppressing
racism.
us,
Yeah,
aren't
exactly. Racism from Mediterraneans over us.
they? I demand red wine and olives
Yeah,
immediately.
reparations from Rome. That's what we want.
And it gets better than this, because the only piece of evidence that this medical journal, these academics provide, is that the age-adjusted excess death rate was higher than the other causes each year from 1999 to 2019 among black men and women under the ages of 65. So because the excess death rate was higher amongst black people, that must be racism.
Right. It's nothing to do with intra-community violence.
Yes. So what they've done there is just said there is a difference, therefore racism. No investigation
It's
into
not
the fact
alcohol use or drug
No.
use or eating very unhealthy foods.
So everything that this is predicated on is basically something that even, someone still in school could point out as being dumb.
The Chinese immigrants to America are I think the longest lived and the thinnest. Right? They have the most healthy sort of lifestyles. And so they're physically, they're all very slim. It's like 15% obesity or something in their community, where it's like 40% in every other community. And it's like, is there no? I mean, what was the racism that the Chinese of like the Chinese?
The most anti-racist of any people. That's what's going on.
No, they'd be the fat ones. They're the most racist of all people.
Okay,
The Chinese are the most racist Americans who are oppressing the blacks, even though they've only arrived in the last few decades.
Actual people from China are actually incredibly racist.
But like the Chinese aren't in control of the United States.
Well,
I mean, maybe directly
No, I'm
in
joking,
like,
of
this
course.
sort of institutional way that they're implying that it's an institutional bias that like the Chinese arrive, do well, and now they're oppressing black people.
it doesn't make any sense,
No,
does it?
it's nonsense.
And-
It's obvious nonsense.
Yes, and this echoes the argument that climate change is now a cause of death as well, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, Frustrated doctor diagnoses woman with climate change in world first.
Jesus Christ. Oh, Jesus. It's just ideology. It's just pure ideology, as Zizek would say.
And obviously this is just a bludgeon which the political left is using to beat down Western culture. And to look at that, let's go through some things that have been newly declared as racist. So, starting with the United States, when computers are racist, by The Economist.
We actually did a premium podcast on this on the website. The computers aren't just racist; they're super racist. But we won't talk about it now. You can go watch that on the website.
I mean, computers
it's too spicy
are known for avoiding subjective judgments. They are just machines of pure objectivity. Make of that what you will.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's something we go over in the podcast, but we can't talk about it here. So let's carry on.
So another example is that India Airy, some kind of musician, I assume, says that Spotify exploits artists and that Joe Rogan is consciously racist.
Did you see her argument for this?
No, I didn't.
She was like, at the beginning of the 20th century, we had an agreement that you don't use the N-word.
Well, they just passed it around through the letterboxes and you had to sign it.
Yeah, during the segregated South, where you've got your own drinking fountains. They were like, yeah, but we're not going to use the N-word. Like, really? Like, that's obviously not true.
Such historic ignorance, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just such. She just pulled this out of her rear end. It's like, why would you even say that? Like, it's just obviously not true. But anyway, okay, carry on.
Moving on, in New York City, facial recognition cameras are reinforcing racist policing, apparently.
Are they bringing back black people as being criminals?
Yeah, they're not discriminating in the same positive way that the actual police are.
Yeah.
Oh dear. So, not only that,
right. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't want mass surveillance. You know, if that's one. I mean, not because it's racist, because it's obviously a violation of our civil liberties, but whatever. I mean, that doesn't matter anymore, does it?
The NFL, also racist, according to, despite the fact that 70% of players are black, apparently.
I bet the NFL has made more black millionaires than anything else in the world. Racism.
I don't doubt it. So, also, the White House has taken aim at environmental racism, but the New York Times is complaining that they won't mention race. But still,
but they're calling it environmental racism. It's predicated on the idea of race.
Apparently, communities of colour bear a disproportionate burden from pollution, research shows.
Hey, you moved to the cities.
But using races to allocate federal help could result in legal problems. Yes, because it's
illegal.
Racist.
Yeah. But
Who'd have thought?
At the end of the day, get out of the cities if you don't want to be exposed to pollution.
I mean, it's more expensive to live in a city anyway.
Yeah, it's gross. It's dangerous. It's, you know, I don't see why people want to live in big cities.
So,
anyway.
Also, courts are beginning to admit that some immigration laws are racist. Just immigration laws in general, having any immigration standards.
Do we have any immigration standards?
Apparently not in the United States. Apparently, a federal judge in Nevada ruled for the first time last week that a long-withstanding law that makes it a felony to re-enter the United States after deportation is unconstitutional because it's explicitly racist in its origins. It's just so dumb. It's like, yeah, you've broken our laws once, but if you break it again, that's illegal.
Yeah, it's illegal for us to punish you for breaking the same law twice. What?
It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Okay, yeah. Oh,
Jesus Christ. It goes all the way to some of Biden's appointees. So, the agenda behind Buttigieg's claim that highways are racist.
Highways are racist?
Yes, apparently. According to this article, the Biden administration claims that it's proposing a $2 trillion infrastructure program that would accomplish everything from expanding mass transit to launching an era of green energy. Transport Secretary Pete Buttigieg has articulated another ambitious goal recently, reversing the racist history of America's highway system.
This must be breaking news to black people in America.
The roads are racist.
Yeah, it's like you get up, sort out the family, go, have a shower, brush the teeth, get dressed. They're like, yeah, okay, I've got 35 minutes to get to work. Go, get in the car, turn on the radio, and they're discussing, what's this, whatever, the Wall Street Journal, where it's like, yeah, did you know that highways are racist? And they're driving down the highway and go, oh my God, I never realized I was being oppressed by this highway.
And all of a sudden they spot that the highway's got a tiki torch and a white hood on. It's like, wow, I never would have noticed.
All the signs are swastikas. I just hadn't noticed. Like, this is just stupid. This is just beyond parody.
I know. And just in case you didn't think it'd get any more stupid, Oregon Departments of Education links standardized testing to white supremacy.
Oh,
so,
yeah, well,
there we go. But it's not just America.
No.
This also happens in the UK. So a black barrister calls to ban court wigs, apparently.
Because they're racist, right?
Yes.
But they just look stupid.
They do look stupid.
They look
yes.
silly.
That's part of the reason. Apparently, a high-profile black barrister has called for wigs to be banned in the UK courts after a colleague complained that the traditional garment looked ridiculous on black legal advocates. It looks ridiculous on everyone.
Yeah, exactly. It looks ridiculous on white people too. Oh my god.
Leslie Thomas QC argues that wigs were fashioned for Caucasian hair after Michael...
What? It's a wig! It covers your hair.
After Michael Etienne, I don't know, a black junior barrister with an afro, was told by the bar council that he risked being in contempt of court if he refused to wear his wig.
Based. That's so funny. It's like, yeah, wear the wig on the afro. It's like, this looks ridiculous. It's like, yeah, it kind of does.
The tradition
really
of wearing
racist.
wigs, known as perukes, dates back to the Georgian era. The garment, though no longer mandated in most court hearings in England and Wales, are seen by some as a symbol of authority that offers a degree of anonymity to QCs who wear them.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That is amazing.
So they're not even forced to wear them, but they're still racist. And
He's just
they
sat
must be
there
banned.
angrily with his wig on his afro going, this is racism.
But
Just,
it gets even more absurd than that, don't worry. Inspirational female influencer argues that cat-abusing footballer punished because he is black.
oh, this is the guy who was kicking his cat around.
Yes, as if kicking a football isn't enough.
Yeah.
He wants to now kick his pets.
Wow, I
and
mean-
apparently being punished for that is racist. Which is just absurd.
I saw someone else as well, like another footballer, saying, well, look, is that bad or are the racist fans bad? Think about that. It's like, but he kicked his cat. Like, I'm not, the racist fans have gone to jail, fine. They shouldn't be racially abusing someone, but he kicked his cat. Like, that should be punishable, shouldn't it? Why is he abusing his cat?
It's not like one negates the other.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
animal abuse negated because fans
Look
say
at those
rude
racists
words,
over there, yeah.
So the Rory's article says, a social media influencer listed by Forbes as an inspirational woman has asked if a Premier League footballer has been punished for being black after videos were posted to the internet in which he is seen physically abusing his cat. West Ham United defender and French national Kurt Zouma has been the centre of controversy in recent days after a video emerged of him kicking and slapping his pet cat in the presence of a child on February 7th. And it is awful, by the way. I've seen it and I like
I haven't
cats.
watched the video.
Yeah, I like cats and I don't like seeing animal abuse. So
No.
I'm sure he's not going to be punished enough, in my opinion. West Ham, currently placed 6th in the Premier League, also denied Zouma 2 weeks' pay, equivalent to £250,000 for his actions
Christ.
as Adidas cut ties with the player.
Good.
I'm sure the racism really hurts over those piles of cash, doesn't it?
Gets paid $500,000 a month.
That's 2 weeks' pay.
Yeah, so he gets $500,000 a month. So that was
Oh, yeah,
$250,000,
sorry.
yeah.
I'm being stupid.
That's all right, but it's just like, that's wild.
All of this nonsense has fried my brain.
And this guy is somehow just like, yeah, I'm so angry, I'm going to beat my cat. Why? Like, what could you possibly have to be so angry about?
He can allow his cat to sleep on a bed of money.
Yeah,
It'd be
exactly.
No problem to him
Buy
whatsoever.
your cat a separate house if you must, because you can afford it.
In now deleted tweets, Nigerian influencer and Middlesex University alumna Sally Suleiman attempted to defend Zouma and asked whether he had been treated unfairly in light of his skin colour.
Yeah, that's it.
Suleiman-
Everyone else, if he was white and he was kicking his cat, the British public would be like, oh, very good. Very
Yes,
good.
because we're always favourable to animal
Yeah,
abuse here, aren't we?
if there's one thing the British public love, it's the abuse of animals.
It's so dumb. Suleiman, a self-proclaimed humanitarian and member of the Young African Leaders Initiative,
I love
proclaimed-
self-proclaimed humanitarian. It's like, no, I'm a humanitarian. Yeah, I bet you are.
proceeds to address Europeans and argues that the repercussions of Zuma's actions were just too much for the crime committed.
It's like an Ali G skit.
No, this doesn't make sense, wrote Suleiman in a tweet with an attached picture of Zouma. The fine doesn't make sense. Adidas withdrawing his sponsorship deal makes no sense. Zouma apologised. Is it because he is black? This has just messed up my evening. Dear Europeans, no one is saying that what Zuma did is right. We understand your laws too. What we are saying is that £250,000 fine and losing his sponsorship deal with Adidas is just too much for the crime committed. This is happening because he is black.
No, this is happening because the British public are incredibly soft on animals. That's why this is happening. Like, and I appreciate as a foreigner you don't understand this, but the British public really love their pets.
She's probably thinking, why is he playing with his food? But anyway.
Carry on.
So it's not only there as well. They're coming for some of our cultural heritage here, in that the Tate is to commission an artist to critically engage with racist imagery in Tate Britain's restaurant mural.
Well, they're going to expose him to racism.
So if you could scroll down, John, you can see the mural.
Well, that's the mural.
Yes, very racist. It just looks like a nice landscape to me.
Yeah.
So the Rex...
it looks like a pleasant place to have a dinner.
Yes, it does. Rex Whistler painted the mural in 1927. Although he completed it when he was just 21, it remains one of his most important artworks. Entitled The Expedition in the Pursuit of Rare Meats, the mural tells the story of an imagined hunting trip through continents and epochs in search of exotic foods and drinks, an appropriate subject for a restaurant.
How's that racist?
Well, there are two vignettes which a Tate statement categorises as derogatory and distressing images of a black child being kidnapped from his mother and enslaved, and caricatures of Chinese figures. These images represent about 1% of the mural.
I mean, these are things that happened in history.
Mm-hmm. And we're just meant to gloss over them.
Right.
And also...
critical race theory would imply we need to teach that.
1% of the mural is enough to just investigate the whole thing.
Right, okay.
As well, which is just ridiculous. And this I found particularly interesting. Until the late 2010s, little attention had been paid to these two scenes, but in 2018, Tate presented a new explanatory text addressing their racial content. 2 years later, following further protests, the trustees decided that it's no longer appropriate to use the room as a restaurant. By this time, the gallery was closed because of COVID-19.
Does this mean that, like, there's going to be a lot of Turkish artwork that talks about the European children they took and turned into slave soldiers? Is that all going to become verboten as well?
I don't know anymore. None of the rules make sense.
No.
But it doesn't stop there.
Of course it doesn't. This is all we talk about.
Yeah, I know.
This is the West.
Here's the BBC using taxpayer money to present Agatha Christie as potentially being racist. And this is in tandem with the release of a film adaptation of one of her novels, The Death on the Nile. Apparently adapting Agatha Christie as a mass 21st century entertainment is not without its complications. They're a product of its time, and they were written in the mid-20th century, and arguably they reflect some unsavory attitudes, not least when it comes to racism, xenophobia, and colonialism.
Right.
The question is therefore, how do you translate and update Agatha Christie or not for the modern age? Well, apparently you crowbar in black people. That's what you do.
Right.
You just blackwash history.
I can see one there,
yeah. And of course...
well, I love this. Right, so the time period this was written in was a racist time period.
Mm-hmm.
So this is problematic. Right, okay.
So you've just got to add in black people to participate in this revisionist history instead.
Mm-hmm.
Just like black people engaging in racism themselves too. All right then. But it's
not very diverse and inclusive if there doesn't have any black people being racist.
And this is the same problem with the new Amazon Middle-earth series, The Lord of the Rings or The Ring of Power, whatever it is. They've introduced the most diverse cast ever with a black elf. So this is the direction.
Is more unlikely.
It's all ridiculous, really. I mean, one thing that I find really strange is that in the Lord of the Rings films that happen after when this is set, there are no black people. So something happened in between when this Amazon series was set and the Lord of the Rings series. I mean, who knows? Maybe they're just implying something.
We actually, by the time this goes out, we will have a premium podcast on the website talking about this. So go and check that out.
Mm-hmm. And obviously the solution here is, surprisingly, from this Guardian article. I never thought I'd say that.
Oh, okay.
As a black Lord of the Rings fan, I felt left out of fantasy worlds, so I created my own.
Bravo! That's exactly the right thing.
Yeah, this is exactly what we want. So this isn't necessarily a recent article. It's from February 2021. But this attitude of making your own things is
Yes.
better for everyone because
Yes.
you have content in which you can identify with.
Mm-hmm.
You're not inserting things that...
You're not bastardizing someone else's content.
Exactly, yeah. And therefore you can lay claim to having your own cultural heritage there.
But the thing is, African countries, and I hate when they just say Africa, because Africa is an enormous continent.
Exactly.
With many different cultures and nations on it. But there are loads of them that have really interesting stories, and it's just sad that blacks are just treated like second-class people when it comes to this sort of stuff. Because it's just like, look, there are interesting things to say about, like, you know, like black historical characters, black fictions. There are some black intellectuals as well, like from Africa, who have got interesting and different things and takes on things. But they're just looking at, like, you know, oh, Lord of the Rings is popular, right? Put a black person on it. It's like, that's disrespectful to everyone. Like, involved.
No one
you know?
wins by this.
Exactly. No one wins like that. This is exactly the right way to do it.
And another thing that has been declared racist is Thatcher's cider.
What?
Cider is racist.
Okay, why?
So, this is some reporting on our website. Bristol-based activists against the veneration of Edward Colston are demanding that a public boycott of Thatcher's cider after its director joined a merchant society with historic links to the 17th century merchant philanthropist.
6 degrees of racism.
It's just like he's joined a charitable organisation, more or less.
That 500 years ago.
Yeah, it's so dumb. The Countering Colston pressure group, known for its campaign to decolonise Bristol via the removal of effigies of Colston and his name from the city's streets and institutions, well done, Cultural Revolution in China of Bristol, launched its Don't Buy Thatcher's campaign on Twitter on February 5th after noticing that Martin Thatcher, fourth-generation cider maker and director of Thatcher's Cider, was a member of the Society of Merchant Venturers, an institution which Colston himself had been a part of. So just being a member of the institution. So surely Colston was a resident of Bristol. Would that mean that if you're a resident of Bristol, you're...
a racist?
Yes.
Yes.
By definition.
Yes.
Well,
by this line of logic, yes.
So all Bristolians are racist, therefore we don't need
Bristol
to
needs
listen
to decolonize itself and rename itself.
The activist group wrote that the society has deep roots in historical slave trade of Bristol and its members being responsible for the suffering and deaths of tens of thousands of human beings. Also, that's not really the aim of slavery. If they're suffering and dying, you're not a very good slaver. You're meant to keep them alive so they can do their work.
That might be true, but historically they didn't really care that much about it.
That is true, yeah. They also accuse members of being a powerful, unelected elite who have a significant influence on political and civic life in Bristol.
Okay.
Which is just a bit strange, really.
Yeah. Actually,
Normally
the Bristolian World Economic Forum.
And responding to activist demands, Thatcher, the owner of Myrtle Farm in Somerset's Mendip Hills, told Bristol 24/7 that he was a relative newcomer to the society after joining in 2012. And he says, during the time I have been a member, I have also been able to contribute to the valuable philanthropic work that members of the Merchant Ventures do with organisations across Bristol, from care homes to education establishments. As a relative newcomer to the society, I hope I've been able to bring a fresh perspective to thinking, in particular as to how the SMV needs to acknowledge what has happened in its past and yet continues to do fantastic work for people all across Bristol's communities. So basically, it's a charitable organisation that sets up care homes and education. But it's racist.
It's got a connection in some in tangential way.
And the final thing I wanted to cover, which is ridiculous, is this article which says Green King prays for changing racist name of 350-year-old pub. And the pub is called The Black Bitch, which is in reference to a dog. It's not even anything to do with people whatsoever.
But they saw that and were like, hey, I feel personally attacked. Or no,
Yes.
Ali here is like, hey, black people feel personally attacked by that. It's like, you're not black. And the thing it's talking about was a dog.
All those black people in West Lothian in Scotland are just so offended by this. Apparently, it's a 17th century pub as well, and they're just changing the name because black people who don't even live there are offended.
Well, white people are offended who don't live there. On the behalf of black people who don't live there. Are offended because they talked about a dog in a way that they felt was racist.
So apparently they're changing the name to the Willow Tree, just revising 350 years of history. And that is ultimately what they're trying to do
Oh, yes.
with all of this stuff, is that they are trying to wash all our history away, call it all racist, get rid of it and replace it with their own narrative about our culture, our heritage, which will make them more powerful. It will give them power over us. And that is something that we can't allow to happen.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the articles that we do, such as this one from John Wheatley on reading the future of propaganda. And there is, of course, a silver and gold tier audio track if you prefer to listen instead of reading. But if you also want to follow John, you can also follow him on Getter at @JohnWheatley. Thank you and goodbye.